Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Divi Nation. Divi Nation is a podcast and YouTube show by Elegant Themes, a proud leader in the premium WordPress theme and plugin market. Now, the goal of Divi Nation is really simple. We want to provide you with the knowledge, insights, and supportive community that you need to be successful with WordPress and Divi. I'm your host, Nathan B. Weller, and as your host, it's my job to facilitate that success by having various guests from the Divi and wider WordPress community onto the show. So in this episode, I'll be interviewing our own Slava Myznikov. And Slava, I really apologize if I just butchered your last name, but doing my best. Slava's been part of the Elegant Themes team for several years now. First as a support staffer in our forums, and then later as a developer working on plugins like Monarch, and of course, our flagship theme, Divi. Slava, who lives in Russia, all the way on the other side of the planet from me, was kind enough to shift his schedule around a bit and make a Skype conversation possible. So during the course of our chat, he tells us his WordPress story, the story of how he came to join Elegant Themes, and of course, all the work that he's been doing on Divi 3.0. Can't wait to share that with you. So without further delay, here's our conversation. Slava, welcome to Divi Nation.
Hello, Nathan. Hello, everyone.
Real quick, just tell us where you're talking to us from.
I'm talking from my. It's kind of office. It's my small apartment which I use for working. It's not cool. My home. It used to be my home, but now I live a different place and use this small apartment as my office.
That's cool. I'm actually thinking that might be something that I need to do too as we get more cameras and lights and stuff. I'm like, I might need to move to a different location for my work stuff. Can you tell us where you're from, city, state, country type thing, and just a little bit about it? Yeah.
I'm from Omsk. It's a big industrial city in West Siberia. It's an average Russian city with all the advantages and disadvantages.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
The weather is not really good there in Omsk. Yesterday it was very hot, like 30 degrees Celsius. Today it's 15 degrees and raining. The most part of the year here is winter. It's with average of, I think, minus 20 degrees. And
wow.
it can be lowered down to minus 40 some days.
Oh my goodness.
Not very, very well sometimes.
That's insane. Yeah, where I'm from, we complain about like -5 or just anything under freezing. We're like, oh my goodness, it's so bad. Yeah, we've got nothing on what you're doing.
-5 is actually pretty warm.
Bust out the shorts, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you work from an office that's not your home. Can you tell us a bit about what your average workday is like?
I tried different options for the last 2 years, so it was really different all the time, but I think I found the best option for me. So I wake up at 8 a.m., have a short breakfast, then I drive to the swimming pool, which is on the way to my office. I swim for like 45 minutes, then I take a big cup of my favorite latte, and I'm ready for work at 10 a.m.
Okay, yeah.
Then I work for like 6-7 hours in a row with a short break for lunch. Then I drive to my home and spend my evening with my family.
Nice. Well, so this is probably a bit earlier than you're used to and a bit later than I'm used to because of our time difference. I think we're like 11 hours apart. It's pretty late where I'm at, and it's pretty early where you're at right now.
It's because of this time difference. Sometimes I need to work very late to communicate with our team. So
I know this wasn't in the questions that we talked about beforehand, but maybe speak to that for just a moment. Like, we use Slack as a company, and you're on a development team that's got people in all different time zones. Just real briefly, what's it like collaborating on something as kind of big and in depth as the products that we create at Elegant Themes, with a team that's distributed in different time zones and all that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sometimes it's quite difficult to find all the people in one place and at the same time. But if we need to discuss something really important, we can just schedule a meeting and everyone will come to the chat and we will speak. But most of the question can be delayed, so you just write the question in chat and you can get the answer a little later. So it's totally fine.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think is kind of interesting about, working in a distributed company, where it's not an option for you always to get an instantaneous answer to your question. It kind of really drives home, like, I don't know if you've ever heard someone say this, but like one of my favorite things that I read a while back about, just workplace productivity or whatever, was that almost nothing needs an immediate answer. So it really you kind of have to fully embrace that. Okay, cool. Anyway, let's move on to learning a bit about your WordPress story. That's something that everybody on the show always shares about. Can you tell us a bit about how you began using WordPress?
At the beginning of the learning of WordPress, I didn't even know that I want to learn WordPress. It was like at the last year of studying at the university, I just decided to learn how website works. So I have imagination about all the technical stuff, but not the websites, not about how they build with, PHP or something. So I just wanted to dig into this thing. And it wasn't my priority, so I postponed this task for a long time. So it was like for a month. But one day I met a person who offered me to learn web technologies. Okay. And it was right in time. So I I just started from this point. He promised me.
So you met someone who was going to teach you just web stuff in general.
Yeah, something like that. So he promised to help me with tutorials, some books, and helped with some answers. So he was really interested in web technologies, and he was working with them. So it wasn't difficult for him to help me to learn the web technologies. So
were you collaborating on projects with this person, or is it just because they were interested in teaching other people that they decided to help you out?
No, it just a sequence of coincidence how I met him. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm looking for a teacher.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I just met him. We just start talking and came to this thing like I want to learn web technologies and he can help me. So cool. It was like this.
Well, so you started using web technologies, as you're putting it. I just want to make sure, when did that become WordPress? Was WordPress just part of the mix?
It was WordPress just because he used WordPress for work.
Oh, okay.
If it was a Joomla, it still be fine for
Joomla
me.
Work,
Yeah. I didn't care at the time.
Okay, so cool. So how did that lead you to learning about, or coming in contact with Elegant Themes?
The learning process was really interesting for me. I was really interested in WordPress. I spent a lot of time learning, coding, some themes, some small plugins, and after a few months, I got a good understanding of WordPress themes and plugins, have some experience with small page customizations, and it was really interesting for me.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about web development as my primary job. It was like a hobby for me.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I spent my free time having fun, coding. And at some point, the person who told me asked whether or not I want to work on support forum. And the company he suggested was Elegant Themes, and this person was Yuri, our
Okay.
developer.
Yeah. So for everybody who doesn't know, Yuri is like our longest developer with the company. He's been working with Nick for like, I don't know, 7 years now. Is that correct?
I think yes.
Yeah, something like that. So that's awesome. That's cool that he was your like connection.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, oh, this is Elegant Themes, I want to work here. It was like, Elegant Themes, okay. So I didn't know too much about this company at the starting point. So it was like, they make a good themes, and I like them, and I will be happy to work with them.
Cool. So you started in support. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. To tell the truth, I didn't take the job in this company too serious, because at the same time I was working in another big IT company, and it was my priority. When you compare a company with about 7 people and another company with about 5,000 employees around the world, it's hard to believe that you ever work with such a small company, and
until it
that's
happens.
my first impression. Because totally. I didn't have a lot of experience. It was a starting point of my career of support member in Elegant Themes. Even if I didn't take the job in Elegant Themes seriously, I was working very hard on forums, because this job for me was an opportunity to learn WordPress themes even deeper, to get a lot of knowledge about code, about theme. So I was happy to work there, because I learned a lot from the people who asked different questions. It was interesting to find the answer. I tried to help people with customization, because it was a chance to go into code and create something which I was, which was my primary goal, actually.
Yeah. So even though it's like you're probably getting questions like specifically with the customization stuff that probably go a bit beyond what was required, it was like fun for you, because you're like, I'm on the clock right now and I get to go figure out how WordPress works or how this theme works.
Yeah. So it was my, and at that point I understand that coding is my passion.
Yeah.
And also I got a lot of requests from different people personally who asked me for paid customizations. So outside the Elegant Theme forum. So I worked on support forum. Then after my hours, I worked on customization outside the forum. So it was really interesting for me. I spent a lot of time there, and I think it was the job where I got a lot of experience as a web developer, because support forum is it's different thing. You cannot develop a lot there, but when you work on customizations with different themes, with different people, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot of code there.
How many years were you doing support?
It's like it's from 2011 till middle of the 2014. So it's about 3.5 years.
So you spent quite a bit of time, 3.5 years in the support forums. Do you have any tips for people in the community for like how to get the most out of the support forums?
Hmm, just post the clear answers or clear questions, and you get the clear answers. It's simple and it really works. Be pleasant.
Yeah.
It helps us to provide you better support.
Yeah.
Actually, when we see that people are happy and they are good, we inspired to provide better support.
Very cool. All right. I think that makes a lot of sense. Can you tell us a bit about your transition that you went through from being on the support staff to being part of like the core development team?
Um, yeah, when I was working on forums, sometimes there were at the beginning there were times when we don't have a lot of unanswered tickets on forum. It's hard to believe right now that we had so much tickets, but there were sometimes, yeah. And when there were two were small amount of tickets, I asked Yuri, uh, what can I do to not spend my time for nothing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he asked with Nick, and he tell me that I can spend some time on bug fixing. You know, there were some
Yeah.
bugs in our teams, and I was happy to help in bugs fixing. And it was for quite a long time. So I worked on forum when it was not many questions. I worked on bug fixes.
Oh,
So
nice.
it was quite good because I can switch between different tasks and I was not so boring from support forum. Okay.
Well, so what kind of things, so you went from support tickets to bug fixes, and as you got into more development work, I assume it just sort of slowly shifted into development work from that point on. What are some of the early products that you worked on?
Um, the Let me tell you the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
It was 2014 when I was thinking that I need to leave one of my jobs. So I worked at a big IT company,
Mm-hmm.
and it was good. I have a great career growth there. You know, at the same time, I worked on forums
Mm-hmm.
for some time, for some hours, and at the same time, I worked on customizations from
Three
outside
jobs.
of, yeah. So I started to think that I need to choose,
Yeah.
and I was about to leave Elegant Sims
Mm.
because that company, which offers me such a great career growth and such a great perspectives in terms of career, and I was about to leave Elegant Sims and continue to work there. And one day I got a message from Yuri, and he told me that Nick wants to offer me a full working day at Elegant Sims. But it was not like a web development job. It was support on support forum, and it was a difficult decision for me because from I need to choose to start from scratch in Elegant Sims
Mm-hmm.
and leave my company. Um, it was good conditions, good salary, and he promised me that I will work on bug fixes. So I decided to try. So I left the IT company where I worked for about 3.5 years and started to work at Elegant Teams.
Very cool.
Uh, you asked about the first product. It was Monarch plugin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Are you still
uh, uh,
working on Monarch, or is that something that, like, I think one question that I think the community would be interested in, honestly, I don't know exactly, is how you guys handle the different products internally, because I know there's different people who lead different releases, but are some people always on certain products?
mm, Um, Probably I'm the person who work on bug fixes on Monarch more than others because I know the code better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's I think that's the rule. If you know the code better, you can fix bugs faster. So you
That makes sense.
it's better to give this task to you. But it's different with Divi because everyone involved in Divi, tasks in Divi are very big. There are a lot of tasks, and one person cannot handle all of them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're getting ready to talk about Divi 3.0, but before we do, I always like to pepper in a few questions about just like how people can learn from our guests, And so one thing I want to ask you is, is there any advice you have for people who are looking to kind of do what you did, which was maybe kind of upgrade their skills over time, go from casual development or casual tinkering to maybe something more serious? Do you have any tips for how people can do that or what that might look like for other people?
Um, I can say just find any opportunity to improve your skills. Don't be afraid to take a complex task. It really improves your skills and it really helps to understand whether or not you're interested in this job. Probably when you work for some time on this task, you will see that it's not the job you want to do actually.
Yeah.
So, but if you feel that you are interested in this task, you have a passion to solve it. You feel. I can't express my feeling when what I feel when the task is done. So at the beginning, there were some moments when I look at the task. I think. I don't know how to do it. Probably it's better to not do it. But then I look from different angles, and finally I found a solution, and I feel so much better. I feel that I can work without rest on this such task. So.
Yeah.
And eventually you will get the benefits from all the time you spent on learning and
Right. It accumulates. Like you put
yeah,
yourself up against a really complex task once,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden you have everything you gained from that difficulty,
yeah,
and you can now apply that to every future task, which I think is true in a lot of different areas as well.
that's right.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about Divi 3.0. So that's like the one topic that everybody on the teams really had to spend some time talking about. Can you tell us about the various aspects of Divi 3.0 that you've personally worked on leading up to its launch?
Sure. Um, Divi 3.0 is the biggest Divi update ever, and I'm happy to be involved in the development of this update. I already finished with model setting, removing cloning mechanisms, right-click menu, custom CSS output, and connecting to all the options, so roles, some background stuff. And right now I'm finishing with library, so it's almost ready. So, and the builder really becomes to life. And
Yeah.
I see how it works, and it really it's awesome.
It really is. I mean, getting to see some of the early demos that Nick had on his laptop when we were all out at WordCamp Orange County, like you guys have done some awesome work. I'm really impressed. Everybody who saw it was really impressed. But that actually brings up an interesting question is like, it is super impressive, but you don't really get super impressive products without overcoming big challenges. So my next question is, what's been the biggest developmental challenge that you've had to overcome in this project so far?
I think the biggest challenge for me was understanding of a new technology we decided to use for Divi is React and Flux. It's so different from what we have in backend builder. and it was hard to start using the new logic at the beginning because you actually need to duplicate all the functionality from backend builder, but
totally new way of
in totally different way. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because like every code language has its own kind of logic that goes with it, and so you had to. Yeah, that's crazy because the whole team did that. Everybody on the team basically learned a new language, like a new way of thinking, and then translated their old work into the new way of thinking.
But now we can see and use all the benefits when we build the base and all the logic in place. It's really cool. It's different and it's cool.
So maybe you can expand on that thought a little bit. What's a big difference between the front end builder and the back end builder? Aside from the fact that they live on the front end and the back end.
It was hard at the beginning to code to write the code for front end builder, but now it's in some ways it's so much easier to write the code because front end builder is modular thing, and each module is independent from each other. So we can just take some module and use it in different places, and it's flexible. It can be used in some unpredictable places. For example, we have a button component which is used at every place where we need button, and it functions differently at different places. So it doesn't look like it's the same component, but it's really the same component. So we didn't write a new code for the button if we need, say, button for adding models or button for open settings of the model. So it looks differently, works differently, but it's the same component. It's really easier to use.
Very cool. So one thing I'm wondering about, and I think a lot of people in the community are probably wondering, is will the front end builder itself, all by itself, will it provide new or different or more third party opportunities, like for development or for third party products?
It will provide more work for developers for sure. But we are trying to write our codes with third-party developers in mind, and we think how to make their life easier and how they can improve their current module so they will support front-end builder. So I don't think it will bring some new opportunities at the first version of front-end builder, but at the next versions it will be improved for sure, and new function will appear which brings new opportunities.
Very cool. Well, I think you've covered a ton of ground. I really appreciate you making the time this morning. I got one final question for you. Is there a part of Divi 3.0 that you're particularly excited about seeing the customers use for the first time?
I can't just take one piece of the builder and say this will be great. I think the whole idea of the builder to bring you the new experience in building websites, and it's really amazing when you switch from the backend builder to front-end builder, and once you have worked with front-end builder, you will see how it fast, how it intuitive, how it I don't know. It's totally different, and it's awesome. It's awesome. So I just excited about getting the builder into the hands of our users.
Not one feature, the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Slava, I thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and I really liked hearing your story, man.
Thank you.
Well, that's all for this episode of Divi Nation. As always, I just want to give another big thank you to our guest, Slava Myznikov, for coming on the show. So if you have any questions about the topics that we covered in this episode, feel free to leave them in the comments section on the Elegant Themes blog or wherever you happen to be watching or listening to this. Now, I've made sure that Slava is aware that the episode's gone live, so if you leave those comments on our blog, I'm sure he'll be happy to drop by and answer any questions that he can. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you around the community. And as always, we'll be back next week with another episode of Divi Nation.